Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is definitely going to be a little bit of a eye-opener. If not eye-opener, then I think many of us are going to be start looking in our daily life in slightly different way, or maybe in fact trying to understand a little bit more what's actually currently happening. As a preparedness channel, guys, I do a lot of videos where we talk about the what-if scenarios, and of course we discuss certain things, and then we talk about how we're going to be dealing with a certain instance. And quite often when I do the videos, I normally start with the question. And I say, for example, well, what if you suddenly wake up and the internet went down? Or if you suddenly went up to fill up at the petrol station and the card machines are down, so you can only pay with cash? What if one day you woke up and you needed to make a doctor's appointment and you call your local surgery and say, can I book an appointment? And they say, really, really sorry, we can't do an appointment right now because our system is down. Well, how about the question is now, guys, what if all of that suddenly done at the same time? And to some of you, it might really sound like a far-fetched. In fact, what are the chances of all of the digital systems going out at the same time? Chances are it's going to be quite remote, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. And this is what I've seen in the article literally the other day, where the National Cybersecurity Center has actually been warning us of the possibility of 9/11 cyber attack. And they're basically talking about the fact that our system, our digital system, is very fragile. Well, in fact, a lot of systems in this country are rather fragile, but the cybersecurity seems to be more even so. And they're giving us the scenario, okay, and they're kind of warning us of the potential threats, what could happen. And we've witnessed this, guys, for the past year. We're talking about the massive impact on M&S and some other shops. Obviously, they've been out for months and months. They lost absolutely millions. There's been cyber attacks on MOD, cyber attacks everywhere. And there's more of them happening that gets reported. So the articles are talking about the possibility or of the warning us as a people that this scenario could likely happen and potentially could be going on for months. And when I'm talking about the warning us, I gotta use that word, guys. I don't think it's a warning. I think we just gradually being conditioned, because any way you look, right, this little drips of information constantly coming out to us, to public, and whether some of you take a notice or not, subconsciously that information kind of builds up. So if the scenario were to happen, we're mentally somewhat prepared, if I'm going to put this way. I'm going to leave the conditioning part, guys, to a different video, but we're just going to be talking about that exact scenario. So the point that they're talking about is our reliance on the digital world. Okay, and whether we're talking about, say, guys, the supermarket, okay, they're all relying on everything's digital. Inside the stock system scanned, everything done through the computers, everything done through the internet. The ordering system is all done online. Talking about the NHS, again, none of us really cover this kind of thing when we're talking about the preparedness and grid down. You know, we're talking about first aid kits. It's great. As a prepper, first aid kits, emergency when you can't go to the A&E, that's absolutely fine. We need to be prepared for this. But NHS in general, all the information is held online and it's all kind of accessible to a hacking scenario. So imagine a time, again, where the internet totally goes out. You're not able to basically get an access to NHS. And as I said, whether the basic instances we can cater for at home, there are many scenarios that people rely on a long-term care, on operations, something that we can't really prepare outside in our own houses. The next thing, of course, we're talking about the banking. It goes without saying. If the banking systems go down because there's no access to the internet, so there's no contactless payments, there's no generally payments by card. God knows what's going to be happening with, the whole banks on the inside, depending on the severity of the system breach, if we call it this way. Because see, the cybersecurity, it's not like it's a whole just one big thing. As you can imagine, the NHS, the banks, the shops, they all have their all little systems, but they're very much interlinked together. So whether in some instances, some effects or some things could be affected in certain areas, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be all affected. But the whole idea of the articles, they're giving us the what if scenario. So what if suddenly you wake up and nothing digital is working? They even go to the same basic things, guys, as the news. So suddenly there's no news, there's no YouTube, there's no other news outlet because they possibly can't portray you the information forward. So what then becomes is somewhat of a panic because people just don't know what's going to be happening. We all know, guys, the gossips really spreads faster than truth. But the fact is, when there's no access to internet at all, nobody will actually know what is truth or what is no longer the truth because there's no information, nobody there to confirm either way or another. And this is the really scary part, guys, when I don't think many people are really talking about the whole thing. We talk about the cybersecurity, we're talking about the hacking, we're talking about what if without this, what if without internet. But none of us really actually, I think, understand the severity of having no internet at all. We already know when the panic happens, people, or when something happens, panic begins. And people just do things for the sake of doing it. So there will be queues in the supermarkets buying stuff, regardless whether people have cash on hand or not, because this is what people do. People not when something happens, if people don't know the severity of situations, people will just go there, they'll queue, they'll try to figure this out, they'll fight for food. The same thing with the petrol or the diesel. People will be queuing at the petrol stations, wanting to buy diesel, whether they need this or not. They'll be queuing because they don't know what's currently happening, and they won't know how long it's going to be happening, and they wouldn't know whether they'll need the fuel or diesel, but they'll be doing so anyway. And then talking about, guys, as well, the severity of the whole internet. If you think every single part of our lives quite heavily relies on internet, even if we're just talking about people's jobs, okay? One part or another of majority jobs in this country or many other countries rely on internet, whether it be in delivery, whether it be the bookkeeping, be it anything else, it is all on internet. And it brings it down to the basic things, guys, the basic things in life. If you just step back and think what you do on a daily basis and how much you rely on things like an internet and data, we're talking about contacting your family. So if you're going somewhere, going to work or anywhere else, there's no signal, there's no phone signal, so you can't get in touch with them. There's no login internet, you can't send them an email, you can't send them a text message. It's very limiting to what you can do. Even taking back or going back to the very basic things of us as a humans just relaxing. If you enjoy music, you probably will understand. See, for ourselves, on Friday is a chill day, it's half a day. We normally just relax, listen to some music, and I do my no cook Friday. Basically, we just sort of do light snacks and just enjoy the rest of the day or rest of the afternoon. And music. And again, we all so stepped away far from the analog devices that I'm pretty sure 90%, maybe 99% of people probably don't even know or don't even have a CD or CD player. So even for ourselves as a preppers, I'm really sort of, after reading this article, started to think a bit more about that and thinking, okay, if the world collapses, there's no internet, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be jobless people, there's going to be crime, there's going to be a lot of things currently happening. So you might think, well, actually, then the music is going to be like the least of your worries. But we're talking about the little perks in life. And I think, again, guys, if you are into the music, you understand what the music does. If you, to us as a humans, when you're trying to relax, it really makes us relate. It does all sorts of things to a lot of different people. So if suddenly somebody told you, you lose this luxury, I'm going to call this, as a music, because we don't have a music anywhere but on our phones, then in fact, if the whole world is not collapsing, but only half of it's collapsing, we still can sort of maintain our semi-safe lives, then missing the music is going to be a big thing. To some people, obviously, missing the TV is going to be that as well, but you can substitute TV with the books, with the games, but music is very little substitute for that. So all I'm trying to do, guys, in that video is it was an eye-opener to myself a little bit, because when I read that and I comprehended the whole sheer volume of things in our life that relies on the internet or database, thing like that, it opened my eyes a little bit more. And suddenly I'm thinking, yes, of course it's great to prepare for the cash, because if it's, we can't pay with the cards, then we need to have some cash. If we can't do this, we need to have that. Absolutely. But if suddenly they're talking about having a massive attack on infrastructure where literally the internet goes down altogether, that is going to be a really tough going. And I urge you, the point of this video, guys, as a preparedness channel, just to step back on your daily life and everything that you do, okay, any task you do or anything you buy or you go or you do something, just think outside the box and actually comprehend, is that action that I'm doing or something that I'm enjoying in my life, does that rely on internet directly or indirectly? Like example of going to the shops. So if suddenly, there's no deliveries, there wouldn't be no deliveries because, well, they can't coherent the deliveries. They won't be able to put them on shelf, that sort of thing. So eventually, this is indirectly going to be affecting you. The same thing with the doctor surgery, the NHS, the police, the fire brigades, all of the emergency services, amongst anything else, right? And if you actually think about that, and I did, and it's pretty damn scary. So the point is, guys, again, we're talking about this as a preparedness. It is very unlikely potentially for all of this to happen at the same time. But the point is that they're coming up with those little conditioning things all the time to make us prepare for that kind of thing. And the cyber attacks seem to be there on par right now with the current conflict. So whether that could be related, we know anything could happen. But the point is, we need to understand a little bit more, okay? And we need to act accordingly. And I know there's only so much we can really do to prepare for the colossity of those kind of events, but the little things could make a difference if the severity wouldn't be so severe, excuse the pun. But anyway, the point is, for example, now, none of us have, or majority of us won't have things like a CD players or record players, whatever else. We all just rely. And I know, heads up for the music, streaming, that's all we do. But now, thinking about this, I'm going to start with that little thing. On the top, of course, the general preparedness and, power outage preparedness and internet preparedness. Internet outage preparedness. The phone, the music is going to be our next thing. We're going to basically create a phone. If you have an old phone kicking around, you can maybe buy a very cheap phone and basically load it up with music. Of course, if you like music. If you don't like music, you like books, of course, if you have space for books, then have books, keep books, buy books. If not, download the books, download the readables so you can read them on your phone. Offline games for the kids, for yourselves, crosswords, anything you can, just to make your daily life that a little bit better. Again, it's talking, guys, coming back to the old days when they had like a square, the TV, they only had like a couple of channels and they only watched few things that were shown on there. People seem to deal with life better. They didn't rely on mobile phones, they relied on shopping, but things were totally, totally different. But the difference is, okay, although our lives are a little bit better, more fuller in that way, in a digital way, okay, to us, to lose that freedom of digital access is going to be very detrimental comparing to how the guys used to live then in the analog times where they didn't have this, they didn't know any better, but they made it through, okay, that was okay, and they lead a happy life to what it was. But anyway, guys, so this is the point of that video, okay? Please think about that. I'll put the link for that article down below. It's just a scary way that the way they call it a 9/11 cyber attack type thing, it just really just makes it a little bit uneasy. But again, there's no point panicking, guys. All we got to do is to prepare for what we can. So anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please, of course, comment down below your thoughts. Don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye.